So the quantum market has been consolidating through the past 48 hours since dipping about 40%. And today I want to share with you guys what that looks like in terms of the technicals, what we can see in the future with the tech and the actual developments of the hardware in quantum computing, and also maybe some things that you missed if you weren't at CES. Let's get into it. So this is IONQ. It was up 6% today. It was one of the only quantum computing companies that was up considerably. Part of that could be because they were at CES and they got that extra exposure. But you can see a lot of the companies, they're down not massively, except for Rigetti was down about 12%, 12.8%, really hovering near that 13% range. Now, this is funny because when we look at the technicals, I don't want to say funny, but it's like it's kind of consolidating on the near term. And while it's down today, when we look at the actual trend line over the past 2 days, you can see this was the bottom. Where's the bottom? Right there. And then this is basically the bottom and right here. Okay. So it's kind of establishing the support, and maybe it breaks right on through it and we continue to see the quantum stocks sell off, or maybe this is that new level that we see developing. Can already see some of the technicals starting to play a role in this near-term consolidation. You see this is a previous support, previous resistance, previous support right there, again previous support, and a little bit of resistance there. You can see the moving average, it's dropping below this moving average, that EMA line. Most likely, if we're going to see it push up, it's got to break above, and it's got to most likely cross over that SMA. But what you see here is this level. What we'll look for tomorrow at market open and the technical side of things would be that we'd see potentially a bounce up. Otherwise, we're going to be going into new bearish territory, and that could be what, I don't know what the next level would be. We'd have to look back a little while, but it seems that the next level right there, yeah, $7 or $8 a share for Rigetti. But this is how the whole quantum market looks right now. So you could take a look at IONQ. It kind of had the same movements, a little bit more bullish. It's kind of showing signs. This is where it dropped to, and you can see that's the low there. And then if we mark out that resistance that it's kind of established here, you could start to see it's actually looking a little bit more bullish, right? And we'll see if it continues that direction. But what it could be, right, is a pullback before dropping down further. That's quite possible. What we said yesterday and what I believe is going to be happening is consolidation for the next few days, or even weeks. We'll have to see, but definitely going to be watching it on Monday. Now, outside of the technicals and seeing this recent consolidation after the massive sell-off, I mean, you could even see it again on Rigetti. Even though it's down today, you could see the recovery that we saw in after hours and then selling off and then recovering again. It actually does have somewhat of this consolidation pattern that's starting to develop in the past 3 days. So on top of that, this is something that I wanted to cover with you guys, which is the tech side of things. Now, some of you guys realize, some of you guys are not familiar with all of the nitty gritty details that go into quantum computing's powerful solutions. But when it comes down to the actual use cases, there was a few things I wanted to share with you guys that I didn't have the chance to share in past videos. The first thing is the actual application of quantum computing and how it's being used. You see, a lot of people say, what's the difference between a quantum computer and using a supercomputer? And the difference is actually humongous, but a quantum computer doesn't operate solely on its own. It actually needs a classical computer. It needs a supercomputer that it can work with, or an AI or a CPU, that GPU setup as well. So it's not just like you have a quantum computer, here's everything. No, you actually need to like store the data. You need to be able to get the result from the quantum computer and then run it back through, for example, through an AI. And that's actually kind of the process. And you might say, well, what's the difference in the actual solutions or results? Well, a good way that they explained it at CES is if you have, for example, a chemical reaction, you could go through a supercomputer or go through, with a classical computer, get the chemical reaction and how from a high level down to potentially molecular, but mostly the actual reaction and what is reacting with what and what might be expected. Now, when you go in with a quantum computer, it's no longer just that kind of high level. It's actually going down into an ionic level or atomic level of the chemical reaction. And when you get down to talking about the electrons and being able to simulate those problems, then you get into extremely high frequency computing that needs to happen only that can happen through a quantum computer. And so it's not that quantum computers are like, okay, they're gonna QPUs are now replacing GPUs. It's actually not like that. They were pretty adamant in the CES conference. We were able to get questions directly spoken to us here on the channel. You guys saw they were answering my questions I was asking from some great professors in the quantum computing space. There was Ionic was there. There was IBM. We saw Microsoft as well, and a lot of companies. There's NVIDIA, backing a lot of these companies, and we're able to get really good answers and a lot of great overview from those executives and scientists and doctors. So when we look at the use cases, you have that chemistry use case. One of the big use cases as well is biotech. So peptide protein binding, like when you get down to finding a vaccine solution, how do you bind peptides is what they were talking about. And if you want to be able to bind peptides to find a vaccine, you try a lot of different things to see what can bind. And they don't have that solution for cancer, for example. There's thousands and thousands of research papers or millions of data points that they can run through to use quantum computers to help potentially find some solutions there. And I asked one of the doctors that was, I believe he was with Ionic, have to double check. Oh, Quantinuum actually is the company he was with. I have his card. And he told me that I asked him, I said, what are one of the most specific companies that you want to look at related to this quantum computing potentially impacting some of the cure or the solution for what is cancer? And he said the companies that are using quantum computers the most, one of them is called Amgen. So Amgen, I think, is about $120 billion market cap. They recently sold off tremendously in the last month, I believe. And so we got to look at them as well. We could actually take a look at the company just really quick before we share more of what you guys missed. So Amgen, if we drop down, there it is. Okay. Yeah, it was down 0.75% today. You can see the sell-off the past. Oh, that's the year to date. Let's look on the long. It's funny when you start the new year and you do the year to date, and it's like 5 days or 10 days because we just started the year. It's funny. From the peak of 347, it's sold off about 25%, down to 262. So the overall uptrend looks good, and that's a biotech company that's utilizing it. And you can also just look at this trend. I mean, that's quite the consistent trend, right? So you got that right there. See that? It's now looking more into a buy territory, a little bit less risk at this previous resistance potentially. So that's a 50% increase potentially, right? If we see it get back, to previous highs right there, it'd be 34%. So we'll have to keep a close eye on this company. Now, one of the things that I don't think people fully realize about the quantum computing space is that process of taking AI, CPU, classical computer, right, putting it through the quantum computer, getting a result, and then running it back to the AI to optimize or keep that research going. Because now that we have AI and that it's moving as fast as it is to becoming better at reasoning, that's changing a lot of the game for quantum computing. Now, one of the examples they had, and this is just a really quick example, it was 6 months of research. They took a this is the Microsoft executive was saying they took a 30 million data points and they took those data points down to 8 options using a quantum computer. So from 30 million down to 8. And then within 6 months, they had narrowed it to 1 and improved the lithium ion battery efficiency by 70% in 6 months just by running this process. And so that was one application that's being used. Now, the stuff that we're seeing in the quantum computing space, it's really as simple as how big of a problem is it? And if it's a big problem that can't be solved by GPUs or can't be solved by our current computing power that you're using, maybe a big draw on a data center, you go to the quantum computer and you can run massively more computing power with way less energy spent. And that's where, if you have the solution or the problem, the big problem you're trying to solve, it can make a lot of sense. So one of the financial things that I'll be looking at is, for example, we have real-time AI that has millions of data points. What if we can take those millions of data points in the real time of the market or of a specific asset and run it through a quantum computer that can then, or run it through an AI and classical computing through quantum computer, and then get a result, and then have go back to the AI and maybe even be able to have predictive analysis. You can already do that kind of with AI right now as it is, but to run it through a quantum computer, if you have enough data drawn, it makes sense. You'd actually figure out a way to get that much real-time data and that many points. I mean, yeah, that it could be groundbreaking technology for predictive financial investing. So that was one thing. That's outside of the computing, or that's all the computing and the hardware. Let's talk a little bit about the actual use cases in quantum. One of the examples was, you see your iPhone, that light on your phone that you can turn on and off. If you ask somebody 100 years ago that you could get can you have a light that is this bright and touch it and not get burned, they would think you're crazy. And it's a no way. And so now it's like people don't realize that quantum technology is actually everywhere around us. And some of the really awesome quantum technology, we saw LiDAR from a company that I took a photo of right here, that they're sending LiDAR down from satellites, imaging down to Earth. And they have these quantum sensors that are able to process all that data that comes back. On top of that, we saw quantum in, for example, and this is not this is a different part of quantum, right? These are like the little like technologies that are being developed. And one of the things that was my favorite out of everything was that they are having holographic glass. I always thought when I was younger, phones are going to be just pieces of glass that you hold, or that they're not even pieces of glass, they just hover and you can like touch them, right? Well, that's kind of like where they're getting with the glass. It's holographic. It's either clear, transparent, or you can have it show any type of visual that you want. And they displayed that, for example, with Mobis and Hyundai. They have a partnership. It was really cool, actually. They asked me for my pass, is a media pass, and they took a picture of it and everything, which was awesome. I was able to get that media pass for free. It was like $2,000 value, or close to. I think it's $1,500 for free, because we have a YouTube channel here. So thank you guys for subscribing. Got like lunch, got a media room that had like hundreds of computers, a couch lounge, got to learn more creator tips specifically for medias. And we got to access things that like 99% of people weren't able to. And so that was really awesome. In that process, they would ask, or they would show me more potentially than like what they would show a regular individual. So say, here's everything you need to know about boom, boom, boom. And Hyundai had some really interesting stuff. They had this partnership with Mobis it was basically a sticker that you stick on the windshield, and it has like a dash, or it will do analysis of the street, and it can show you it. And it's either clear or it can display like full like HD imaging. And that was really cool because that was the glass holographic stuff that I've been waiting for years. And then also on top of that, if have you guys seen LG, some of the tech that they have? LG recently put together their transparent glass. They had this big structure that was rotating and moving, and you can actually see everybody or see straight through the structure. Um, and then it can also like change the colors and actually display any holographic photo. So that was really cool as well. So those were some things at CES that were big. Self-driving is definitely progressing extremely fast. Saw some really great sensors. A lot of companies that were bought by NVIDIA or partnered with NVIDIA in the process. So I saw a lot of partnerships with NVIDIA. So keep that in mind. You know, they have some softwares like I think it's NVIDIA Drive that's basically like sensors that rather than doing manufacturing on cars, they could just like stick these sensors on cars and then they can self-drive themselves if the cars are equipped with the software inside. So that was a cool part of tech. I was hoping to see more stuff on quantum computing from AWS, but we weren't able to actually get that because AWS was mostly like, I would say consumer centric when I went there. It was more about like that you can buy cars online with Amazon and that you can buy, or there's generative AI on Amazon and there's different new products that, I don't know if it was like you could buy houses. I'm not exactly sure, but it was more consumer focused on that side. So I wasn't able to see the quantum computing stuff, but definitely got to see AWS being portrayed as one of the main streams, including Microsoft and Google, for usage of the quantum computers that are related to like QEra, Rigetti, Ionic. You had IBM, Microsoft partnering with a lot of third-party companies. The other interesting thing was that Microsoft said, yes, they're working with third-party quantum computing companies to support them and help them grow. But the executive also said that Microsoft themselves is developing quantum computers on their own. So some people might not realize that they just are entering their own self-development, not just working on or supporting research projects from other companies or institutions, research groups or universities, but actually creating their own quantum computer. So that was another really great piece to hear. And they had Rigetti there. They had QUBT or QUBT, QBTS. They had Ionic. And the other company that was bridging the gap between someone like you and me wanting to develop a software that utilizes quantum computing is this company called QBraid. And essentially it's a coding online platform where you can actually, they make it easy for you to run data into quantum computers. And that was, QBraid is what they are called. So that was an interesting company as well. For anyone that wants to try and use quantum computing right now, you can actually do that. And then the last thing, it was also a huge groundbreaking thing in CES that I think will be big for them, is they basically said, if you have a really big problem that you're trying to solve, bring it to us. And if it's good, this is like a challenge they're running, we will distribute the problem to our big network of research groups, universities, and different countries even, to work on the quantum computing problem that you brought and see if we can come up with a solution. And so that was really interesting. And if you win, then you get access to big company support. You're a featured company at CES in 2026, and you get potentially some funding. And that was really interesting. Well, I guess that would come from being at CES. I think that's what it was. And so that was a big piece of the quantum computing. There was one other thing. Oh, the other thing that I didn't know is that this year was the 100th year anniversary of pursuing quantum mechanics. So what they did is they had a 100-year anniversary where they got participation from every single country in the world to support this initiative to work together on quantum computing. I mean, you had China, you had the US, you had Russia, you even had Ukraine there in the partnership. Everybody was there to basically talk about quantum computing at United Nations and come to an agreement of sharing the network of working towards quantum computing innovation. And that was a really big announcement that, I mean, if you talk to me about, someone commented the other day, like, quantum computing is like NFTs, like it's just a fad. I don't think NFTs are just a fad. I think they're going to be big in the future anyway. We can talk about that later. But on top of a comment like that, you might say quantum computing is everywhere. You see it everywhere in your life. You watching this video on the LED screen, you being able to change, the buttons that light up and don't burn you. There's so many different things, like all the announcement or things I've shared with you in this video. And it's definitely not like a fad or anything like that. It's actually happening at a rapid pace, and it's happening right in front of us. So yeah, that's one of the biggest things I would say. It's obvious there's a massive movement there. So I wouldn't say that it's like gonna be like coming and going. I would say it's just gonna continually improve. And there's another thing, it's like all the tech that's at CES, it's like underlyingly built on these principles of quantum. And so that was a really big thing. And it's funny, it's like the hidden hero. We talk a lot about how the hidden hero is going to become, the popular hero. So that's something that was interesting that they talked about as well. So those are kind of all the things that I heard at the conference. Guys, there's going to be some big opportunities, not just in quantum, but in AI, in space tech, in the general tech industry. And if you want to take advantage of those opportunities, make sure to check out Stockmate down below. It's the second link in the description. And if you want to watch me trade live, you want to get access to technical, fundamental analysis, learn and surround yourself with other traders and investors in these spaces, then I'll encourage you again, check out the second link down below for a nice discount in that second link. Thank you guys so much for watching. I appreciate you all. Hopefully I earned your thumbs up. Do consider hitting the like button and subscribing, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Take care.